Hello friends, welcome back to this video on analog communication. In this video we are going to discuss the flat top sampling. So we have already discussed the instantaneous sampling and natural sampling in my previous video. I hope you all have seen that video. If not, I recommend you to watch that first. So here we are discussing the flat top sampling. I have already told you instantaneous sampling is not a practical method, but natural sampling was a practical method of generation of PAM. So now here, why is the need of studying another sampling method, which is flat top sampling? So here we will discuss what are the limitations of natural sampling first, then we'll move on to the discussion of flat top sampling. So in my previous video I gave you the circuitry and the mathematical analysis of the natural sampling. So if I draw the waveform of the natural sampling, so let's suppose this is my message signal. So this diagram represents the output of the natural sampling. So here I have the pulse of duration t. So now every pulse has the same duration, which is t. Now when I see the amplitude of each pulse is varying. Every pulse is having a different amplitude, and which is different from the starting of the pulse to the end of the pulse as well. So now I can say, if I need to find out the power calculation would be very difficult because of the changing amplitude of every pulse. So this was the limitation of natural sampling. So now in the flat top sampling, what happens? We take the samples at every instant. So let's take, this is again my xt. So now what would happen? We'll be taking the samples at every instant. So here we took a sample, here we took a sample, and here we took a sample. Similarly, samples are taken at this area as well. So now what would happen? I'll be using a pulse stretcher network to stretch this pulse for the finite duration t. So now from here you can see every pulse has the fixed amplitude. The amplitude of all of the pulses are different from each other, but if I see a single pulse, the single pulse is having the constant amplitude, but here the single pulse has different amplitude at different point of time. So now here the power calculations would be very easy. So now the question is how to generate flat top samples. So the circuit to generate the flat top samples is like this. So we are providing input xt to the sampler. It would be an instantaneous sampler. After that we are connected it to the pulse stretcher network, which is represented by h of t. So it's the transfer function. So now after that we'll get the output, which is the flat top sampled output. So we'll analyze this thing mathematically as well. First of all, we should know what is this pulse stretcher network. So this ht is the filter which is having the value, it's a filter, and the value of ht is 1 for 0 less than t less than capital T, and its value is 1 by 2 at t is equal to 0 and t is equal to t, and its value is 0 otherwise. Now I hope there should be no confusion about the sampling time. The sampling time or the sampling frequency will follow the same Nyquist criteria. I hope you remember Fs is greater than equal to 2 of W, or I can say Ts is less than equal to 1 upon 2W. And I gave you another relation in between T and Ts as well. So T is very much less than Ts. So these conditions will always follow. And what was Ts? Ts is the sampling time. And what is T? T is the pulse on duration. So now I hope you understood each and everything. This sampler is an instantaneous sampler. I hope you remember what is instantaneous sampling and what are the mathematical parameters related to the instantaneous sampling. After that, we have a pulse stretcher network, which is in the form of filter, which is defined as having one value when the time is in between 0 to capital T, and it has 1/2 value at time 0 and time capital T, and it is 0 otherwise. So now if I have to denote it, how I'll denote it? So it is having the transfer function like this. So this is h of t. So now what happens? I have xt, I have the sampler. At the sampled output, I'll get the instantaneous sampling output. So I am representing xit. So output of instantaneous sampling. So now I hope now you can understand. Here we have xit, which is the output of the instantaneous sampling. Now it is convolved with the h of t to get the flat top sampled output. So now if I am denoting the output with y of t, so what would be the y of t? Y of t would be xi of t convolved with h of t. Now we know the convolution in the time domain will result in the multiplication in the frequency domain. So now if I take the Fourier transform of all of these parameters, so y of f, the frequency domain representation of y of t is y of f, the frequency domain representation of xi of t is xi of f, and h of t is h of f. So now I'll get y of f as xi of f multiplied with h of f. So now I know what is xi of t, I know what is xi of f. I know them from the instantaneous sampling theorem as well. So now here xi of t would be equal to, I hope you remember it, so it is summation n is equal to minus infinity to infinity x of n of ts multiplied by del of t minus n ts. So now here x I f I also know, so it is f of s summation n is equal to minus infinity to infinity x of f minus n of fs. So now I'll multiply xi of f with hf to find out y of f, and I'll convolve xi of t with h of t to find out y of t. So now I know the formula of convolution. So y of t would be equal to minus infinity to infinity x of tau h of t minus tau d tau. This is the formula of convolution. So now I'll be just putting the value of x of tau. This is x of t. Now if I replace t by tau, I'll get xi of tau. So here it is xi. So now xi of tau I can easily find out. Xi of tau would be summation n is equal to minus infinity to infinity x of nts del of, here instead of t I'll be putting tau minus nts. So now y of t would be equal to integration minus infinity to infinity. What is xi of tau? It is summation n is equal to minus infinity to infinity x of nts del of tau minus nts into h of t minus tau d tau. So now I need to observe this. So now this function should integrate over d tau. Now this term is invariant of tau. So now this is constant. I can take it outside. So now y of t would be equal to, I am taking this term to be outside. So n is equal to minus infinity to infinity x of nts integration minus infinity to infinity del of tau minus nts h of t minus tau d tau. Now I know the property of integration of del function. So what is del function? Del function is having value 1 at a particular instant. So it's the shifted version. So here I'll be having the value of del is equal to 1 at nts. So when t is equal to nts, I'll be having del value as 1. Otherwise at every instant of t, it will be having value 0. So now according to the integration property of the del, y of t would be equal to summation n is equal to minus infinity to infinity x of nts. Now when these two are multiplied, I'll get the output h at this instant only. So here h t minus nts. So now this is the output yt in time domain. Similarly, I can find out the flat top sampling output in frequency domain as well. So now y of f would be xi of f into h of f. So now xi of f is this. So now I can simply represent xi of f, which is fs summation n is equal to minus infinity to infinity x of f minus nfs into h of f. So this is the term which is representing my y of f. So now I hope you can imagine, in the frequency domain my signal is multiplied with the Fourier transform of this filter h of t. So now I'll get the reconstruction. If I reconstruct this signal, so I'll be getting f of s x of f into h of f. So now I hope you are agreeing with me. I hope you all have seen my video where I was talking about the reconstruction. So if I am now using a reconstruction filter and now I want to extract, I'll get this output. So now what is h of f? So if I am taking h of t from t by 2 minus t by 2 to t by 2 and the amplitude is 1. So now in the frequency domain, its Fourier transform can be represented as t sinc of ft. So now I can shift it and I can write it like this. So now when I have shifted it, so I have shifted it by the duration t by 2. So now there would be an exponential function which is denoting this shift. So why I shifted it? Because from minus t by 2 to t by 2, I cannot calculate the Fourier transform. If I have rect from 0 to t, I can easily calculate the Fourier transform. So now here it is multiplied by e raised to power minus j 2 pi f into t by 2. So here I'll be having h of f is equal to t sinc ft multiplied by e raised to power minus j, sorry, this 2 is cancelled out, so j pi ft. So now if I observe the magnitude of HF, so the magnitude of HF would be a sinc function, so it would be looking like this. So this is 1 by t, this is 2 by t, this is 3 by t, and so on. Here I'll be having minus 1 by t, minus 2 by t, minus 3 by t, and so on. So the sinc function is representing the magnitude of h of f. Now if I denote the phase of h of f, the phase of h of f is denoted like this. So now again this is 0, this is 1 by t, this is 2 by t, this is 3 by t, this is minus 1 by t, minus 2 by t, minus 3 by t, and so on. So now from here you can see if I am multiplying the x of f with h of f. Now fs is a constant term which will give me either attenuation or amplification, that I can remove easily. But now here when this hf is multiplied, I will get the distortion in the amplitude as well as in phase. So when xf is multiplied with hf, so here you can see from the magnitude and phase, I don't have the constant magnitude and constant phase of hf. So because of this, the distortion will be there in the output. Now this distortion is called the aperture effect. So now I hope you are agreeing with me. So now if in the time domain I have this sinc function, so at the aperture, because when xt is multiplied with this sinc function, at this aperture there would be distortions in the output, because here when it is multiplied with this sinc function, this part would not come and will cause the errors. So this is called aperture effect. And why it is called aperture effect? Because this aperture is causing the errors or the distortions. So now here I hope you are very clear what is aperture effect. Now we'll be talking about the bandwidth. So bandwidth requirement. So the bandwidth requirement would be calculated from the highest frequency. So the highest frequency is when the on time is equal to off time. So now if I am talking about on time, it is represented by t, and the off time is represented by t1. When both are equal, I will get the bandwidth of fm. So it is 1 upon t plus t is equal to 1 upon 2t. So bandwidth when is maximum when t is equal to t1. And what was t? T was on time, pulse on duration. t1 is pulse off duration. So now I need to find out this function 1 upon 2t. So now from here I know that t is very much less than ts and ts is less than 1 upon 2 omega. So t is very much less than ts, which is less than equal to 1 upon 2 omega. So if I need to relate t and omega, so I can say t is very much less than 1 upon 2 omega. Now I can take 2 this side, so 2t is very much less than 1 upon omega. Now if I take the reciprocal, so 1 upon 2t is very much greater than omega. What was omega? Omega was highest frequency of the message signal. 1 upon 2t was the required bandwidth. So I can say the required bandwidth is very high, greater than the highest frequency of the message signal. So this is the disadvantage, because I require a very high bandwidth to transmit this signal. So bandwidth is very high as compared to the highest frequency of my message signal. So now if I talk about the figure of merit, so figure of merit is less than 1 and standard sampling rate is equal to 8000 hertz. So with all of these, I'll be concluding my session here. I hope you understood each and everything which I wanted to convey. If you still have any doubt, you can put the doubt in the comment and I'll try to resolve it as soon as possible. I hope you like this video. If you like it, share it with your friends, subscribe the channel and push the like button. Thank you.